Hi, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Chairman.
Morning.
There is a whole list of questions for you, so I'm going to try to stay on my area. First things first, you got a Lorax in Philadelphia, and last I checked, those are endangered, so you might want to go shut the whole city down. That's generally what happens when you find one of these things in my neighborhood, which is the Southwest PA. You had identified it earlier. Completing the pipelines, developments in Horseshoe Township, Beaver County are essential to the Western Pennsylvania economy. University of Pittsburgh School of Economics has gone as far as saying that energy is a pillar of the Western Pennsylvania economy. So here's my question. You're doing a great job in doing soil and erosion review of permits. Why does it take 200 days in southwestern Pennsylvania when it takes 14 to 30 everywhere else?
Thank you for the question. We're right now, and this goes back to the starting point for me on this, and that is we have differences between our region program by program, and I think a lot of that relates to, one, the fact that we had disinvested in technology, and two, that we had disinvested in training. So that is what we are getting back to, is making sure we have staff that is trained to review with consistency the work that is going on across the Commonwealth, because at the end of the day, it's not a person or a region issuing permit, it's the Department of Environmental Protection. So we need to make sure that everybody across the state is being held to exactly the same standards, and that's the path we're going down. And I think between some of the trainings we're doing as well as some of the technology tools, we'll get there. That said, we also, as has been hinted at in more than one context, we have significant resource challenges as well. So I want to be able to come to you all and demonstrate that we are operating in consistent and efficient ways that may ultimately lead to a result in terms of permit timeframes that still isn't where we want it to be, and we can have a conversation then about, but I do want to get that efficiency and consistency issue addressed as well.
Well, one of the biggest job creators and developments in Western Pennsylvania right now is, of course, the cracker plant at Shell. One would think with 3 regional field offices right there, Pittsburgh, Greensburg, Evansburg, we would be able to increase the ×6 factor of what it's taken for us to get permits for sediment and erosion control out west. It would seem we have a definitive horse in this race that should command your attention. Next question. In 2012, DEP was commissioned to do a long-term air quality study. In 2014, DEP told us it would be released very soon, and here we are in 2017, and we still don't have the results of that study. Wondering, I mean, right now, it shut down 11 of my coal plants with about 200 people working. It laid off approximately 8,000 coal miners, and if it's the reason for all of this is air quality standards, it would seem we shouldn't have to wait 5 years for those results.
I guess I'd have to look into what study you're specifically referring to.
Air quality standards, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah, and have that discussion. I'd say 2 things. One, to go back to the previous point you had made on the cracker plant, I believe with the exception of a couple of permits, they have all of the permitting that they need at this point. So just put the button on that. 2, I think we are obviously engaged in a number of things around air quality permitting, air quality standards, some of that driven by federal decisions and implementation here. However, we've also seen a number of these plants affected by, in particular, the low price of gas, and the fact that we're seeing 1,000 megawatt, 1,200 megawatt gas facilities being built throughout the Commonwealth. Electricity being zero-sum game, it's in many cases the coal plants that aren't clearing within the PJM market. So there's a number of things to that. I do want to understand and look at what this long-term air quality study is, if that has not been released yet, and there's some expectation there. We will certainly get back to you.
I'd love to discuss that with you. The zero-sum electricity thing, sometimes yes, sometimes no. When you take 4 gigawatts off the grid.
Representative, I have to cut you off with that.
His answers were long.
Mr. Secretary,
Are we doing a round 2, Chairman?
we'll make a note of that if we do get to round 2.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.